Damn it, I'm out of ammo. What? Hey, that's my ammo, dude!
Thank you.
Before we get started, I'd like to remind you to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. If you enjoy watching our content, show us some love by liking the video, and ring the bell to make sure you get notified whenever we drop new content. We appreciate you all.
Hey guys, what's going on? This is Kevin
And Boaz.
from Airsoft GI, and today we're going to be talking about something that is pretty slept on in Airsoft content, which is our battle belts. A lot of people like to talk about their guns, their gear, their upgrades, but we're actually going to be talking about something that is super important for most people that you may not realize is super important. So Boaz is going to be giving his perspective on how he runs his battle belt, his preferences, why he does certain things, and he's more of an outdoor milsim player, you would say. So he can give his insight on why he runs it like that. And then I'm more of a speakeasy competition indoor player, so I have my own setup. And after he's done, I'll give my insight on how I run my belt.
So one of the biggest questions of running a battle belt is why do you run one? And personally for me, it's more of a sort of like a weight distribution. And so personally, when it comes to comfort and also mobility, is I prefer to load weight on my hips, as opposed to anywhere else in my body.
Right.
And especially with the upper body, you tend to gain fatigue over time. And so, you know, with a lot of like heavier plate carriers, heavier loads, you're going to experience more fatigue over time. And so for me personally, the easiest way for me to get around that, work around that, is to load stuff onto my hips.
What belt is this all sitting on top of?
So this one right here is the Condor Cobra Gunfighter belt, I believe.
Okay.
I believe it retails for about like $77 at airsoftgi.com. It is around like a mid-tier sort of belt. My personal belt that I run over the years is the Ronin Tactics Warrior belt, which is a pretty expensive option.
Solid though, very
Yeah,
solid.
but it's very expensive. And I'd say, to be honest, this is a very close second. I've been wearing this around all day at the studio today, actually, while I was building this out. And to be honest, I think this is actually a little bit more comfortable than the Ronin. Reason being is, this is just one belt. So you just loop it through your pants, and then you put it on your pouches afterwards, and it just stays on your pants. And it's actually a lot more flexible, so while I'm moving around, climbing stairs, sitting down, going from kneeling, squatting, standing position, yeah, it actually is more form-fitting to your body. Whereas a Ronin, you have an inner belt,
Right.
and then an outer belt that attaches to it. And so because of that, it makes it more of a rigid platform.
Right.
So there'll be days where, you know, like I'll be playing multi-day events where eventually, you know, if I'm sitting for too long, kneeling for too long, eventually I feel it kind of digging into my body. And so I think this is like a really nice happy medium, to be honest.
Okay.
And I think one of the main advantages of running a belt like this is that it stays on your pants. So if you have like a set of like multi-cam combat pants or woodland combat pants, or you know what have you, that you play your go-to pants for airsoft, you just loop it through, put your pouches on, just leave it alone.
Right.
So as soon as you put your pants on, your belt's already there.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there have been some days where I've been on the field where, you know, I have all my gear and I'm like, where's my belt? I've been, you know, looking around for my belt. Turns out I totally forgot my belt, left it at home.
Right.
But with an option like this, you don't have to worry about that.
And I do like how it actually loops through your belt loops. So I've heard people, they had issues of their belts kind of riding up on them or sliding down on them. But this one is actually looped through your belt loops, so it actually stays right where you need it to be.
And I think one thing that both of us, one of the biggest points when we selected our belts is, the movement factor. So when you're running around, whether you're, you know, running, bounding to the next piece of cover, or doing a tactical maneuver, is, you know, your belt flopping around and moving around on you. And so on the lower end budget belts, obviously, I mean, that's all you can afford, right? So you just have one outside the waistband kind of belt, and it will shift around on you. And so I think this is a very simple, very easy way for you to get rid of that problem. It's just to loop it through your pants.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think your battle belts, I think it's more like an outside the waistband kind of. So yeah, so when you talk about that, you could talk about how that mitigates
Definitely
movement. But that, I think, is the most important, because eventually when you start working with the belt, is muscle memory is extremely important. You're going to be doing the same movement over and over again, you know, reaching for your pistol, reaching for your mags, putting stuff in your dump pouch. It needs to be exactly the same spot every time. If it keeps moving around on you, then, you know, what's the point? You know, you're going to be less effective out on the field.
Right.
Yeah, and so personally for me, I went with these Condor double pistol mag pouches over here. They are your traditional kind of Velcro flap style pouches. I personally like these just because I've tried running, you know, like Blue Force Gear mag, or a lot of open top mag pouches for pistols. especially at the position where I run it, around like the 11 o'clock position. If I crouch down or whatever, sometimes my stomach, my stomach will poke into it, or they end up falling out. And so having that extra bit of retention, I think, helps. And so these are actually really new ones that we pulled off from the studio. So they are pretty loud when you open them. One tip I have for all you guys that run Velcro pouches out there is to rub dirt into your soft side Velcro. So when you start rubbing dirt into your Velcro, it's gonna actually make it more of a quieter noise signature when you open them up. Yeah, so that way you don't have to tell everyone I'm opening up a pouch.
I like to announce my arrival by ripping Velcro for people.
And again, on the side over here, I'm running these Emerson high-speed mag carriers. They're like a polymer open top mag carrier. Pretty positive lock in there. It's like a friction lock, but again, it's magazine reload is right there.
Nice.
And so for me, my primary reload is off my belt. So even when I'm wearing a plate carrier, I have mags on them, I don't reload from my plate carrier. So I'm always reloading from my belt. It's much more of a natural, easier movement for me to get ammo into my gun. And then whenever I'm not immediately, shooting or whatever, you'll see me move mags from my plate carrier back into my belt.
I see.
Over here, I have a dump pouch that's rolled up over here. So usually I don't roll up my dump, I leave it rolled up until I have to use it. Also, when I'm reloading, I don't really care too much about my mags. Probably explains why I go through so many of them. I'm just slamming them on the ground. Chucking it on the ground, reload, shoot, and then when I have to move or when I die or whatever, I pick them up and then I put them into my dump pouch.
Nice.
And then on my right, I have the SciTac Glock holster over here.
Okay.
For the Elite Force Glock. I think this is a Gen 4. Yeah, it's pretty nice. It's a very nice, buttery smooth holster. It's fairly affordable, and this is a paddle mount, so it's specifically mounted to fit your hips. Yeah, at the belt.
Solid.
And so yeah, I've tried MOLLE mounted holsters on the belt, and also belt mounted like paddle mounts. I personally prefer the paddle mounts. I feel like they're more form fitting to your hips.
Right.
Yeah, and so I personally prefer it slightly more of like a 2 o'clock position. Having it exactly 3 o'clock requires me to move my hips too much. Yeah, so I kind of like having it in front, and so it's a faster, easier draw for me.
Nice.
A lot of Real Steel guys, they'll have IFAKs, tourniquets on their belts. I mean, we're playing Airsoft, so we don't necessarily need them.
Right.
Yeah, so I just try to keep myself as minimal and as clean as possible. I do see some guys running like, double, triple stack mag pouch on the belt. That's a little too wide for me. I'm already kind of like a wider framed guy. And so especially when it comes for me going through tight spaces and whatnot, yeah, it's definitely a bit cumbersome in my opinion. So I'm always running very slim as possible, having my mags readily available when I need them. Yeah, that's about it.
Solid. And I like how low profile it looks. It's like a pretty thin belt, but like pretty durable.
Yeah.
From what it looks like.
Yeah. And one of the big advantages of having such a slim belt like this is you can lean from side to side, right, and without having any restriction in mobility. I used to run an HSGI short grip battle belt, but those things are really, really thick.
Chunky.
Yeah, especially with the plate carrier. So I'm very restricted as to movement. I'm not a very flexible guy to begin with, but yeah, having a low profile setup like this really allows you to free up that side to side movement when you're leaning back and forth, and I think it gives you that much more advantage on the field.
I guess I'll go up now and talk about how I run my belt. So, obviously I am running the Speed QB battle belt. This guy has been out for, I would say, a pretty long while now. This was the first battle belt I ever bought, and it's served its purposes over the years. I never really needed to switch one, and I just got used to how it felt around me. But one thing that I adjusted to over the years was the placement of the belt. So, like Boaz was saying, we run our belts according to mobility. Mobility is very important when you're running a belt. And over the years, I started shifting this belt up kind of towards my gut area and wearing it more like a weightlifting belt. And the reason why I did that was because since this is kind of like my competition belt, I run this during SpeedQB matches. And during SpeedQB matches, I like to play really low, I like to crawl, I like to, lean out, lean in, and I need access for my hips to really bend where they need to go. And running it low on the actual hips actually felt like it was kind of getting in the way. So when I moved it up to actual, like my gut area, that freed up my whole hip area and I could just freely move around how I needed to. And it actually helps me support my core area, kind of like how a weightlifting belt does. And for me, that really helps out when I'm holding positions like a tight corner or I'm leaning out. And it really helps me engage my core and keep me tight and steady. And so, yeah, that's the whole reason why I run it that way. But moving on to the actual pouches, these are the SpeakyB M4 mag pouches. They're like elastic, pretty simple, not heavy, not clunky, kind of like sleeve retention. So they're pretty simple and how they are pretty affordable as well. They just have some patch space in the front, but this patch space actually lets you take off the patch and use the Velcro area to run it on the inside of your belt. So if you notice, I have 3 mags on the outside, but I also have 2 mags on the inside over here. And so that just allows me to run more mags, but in a more comfortable, I guess, how would you say?
It's more of a natural
combo?
movement.
Yeah,
Right?
right. And a big thing of why I run the extra mag pouches on the inner lining of the belt is because once it starts reaching around towards my back, it gets very uncomfortable to reach for a mag back here. It's easier to reload by grabbing from the bottom and down instead of up and out, especially when it's behind your back like that. So that's the whole reason why I like running like that. But other than that, it's a pretty simple setup. I have a lot of room over on this side, so I just put like an admin patch area to just put more patches.
But I noticed no dump pouch on this belt.
Right, so unlike Boaz, he runs a dump pouch, but we're both similar in that we just chuck our mags. So for me, at least, since I play mainly CQB indoors, I chuck my mags all the time, just kind of toss them on the floor and reload. And I don't really need to worry about tossing it in a dump pouch because since I'm playing indoors and SpeakyB matches are so quick and the area is pretty small in itself, so I don't have to worry about running, a mile to find my mag that I dropped, a long time ago. So honestly, dump pouches for me, they kind of get in the way, and I don't really want like a mag flopping up against me when I'm pushing up or giving away my position.
Yeah, it sounds like running a dump pouch will probably give away like a lot of noise signature.
Right, exactly. And just again impede upon my movement. So that's one of the main reasons why I don't run a dump pouch. But since we're talking about belts, I actually not really switched over, but built a new setup since I am exploring outdoor play. But this guy is my little new setup here. This is the Condor This is the Condor.
It's a laser cut.
Laser cut belt, right. I forget the specific name, but it's similar to Boaz's. It still has that clamp style right there.
It's a Cobra buckle, yes.
Cobra buckle, right. And this one is more of my casual play, outdoor setup. I'm running it actually very similar to Boaz in that I have my 2 pistol pouches. These are HSGI taco pouches that I had laying around. But I have 2 of them in the front at my 11 o'clock. And then I have my 2 M4 mag pouches more at like my 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock area.
And those are tacos as well, right?
These are tacos as well, right. And I personally like running open style just because I'm not really a fan of Velcro pulling. And I haven't had many issues where my pistols mags fly out on me. But I think that's because one quick tip is if you actually glue like rubber strips or tape rubber strips on the inside of your HSGI taco pouches, they'll have extra retention. So when you're pulling, it's enough to let go, but when you're running around, it won't fly out on you.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why I run it like this is because I just like having easy access. I'm sure like you do too, how you run it close to your body at that 11 o'clock. And it's all about muscle memory. You notice how I don't switch up the positions of my mag placement from my SpeakyB belt to this belt is because I'm so used to already that muscle memory of reloading from that hip area, same general area, but still the same motion as before. But as you notice, I also don't run a dump pouch on this guy, although I would consider running the HSGI mesh dump pouch. It's a little bit low profile, and I think it has like a magnet clip to keep the opening from opening up on you.
Yeah.
I am considering it. I haven't decided fully yet. Again, this is like a work in progress. But on the other side, I just have the Condor 4x4, I think, utility pouch.
Yeah.
This is just for if I want to hold, speed loader for my pistol mags, or I don't know, maybe a Thunder Bee or whatever I want.
Nice general purpose, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I like to personally re-index my mags. So, for example, when I play pistol, if I'm using this belt for indoor setup or if I'm getting into a CQB situation and I'm reloading, I'll usually reload and then re-index right away. That's just kind of my muscle memory. Again, I don't like especially for pistol mags, I don't want to drop them because they're very fragile and very expensive.
Yeah.
So I think just re-indexing them and not dumping them to a dump pouch where they can kind of flop around and hit each other or hit other things is kind of my preference to why I don't run dump pouches.
Yeah.
That's just me.
Yeah, that's a very interesting take on it. I think, yeah, again, very straightforward,
Yeah.
very simple, very well thought out. Yeah, and I think this is a very basic piece of kit that I highly encourage all you airsofters out there to kind of think about.
Right.
Think about why you run a certain piece of gear, why it's on there, and then you don't have to be at a field to think about this. You can just be at your room, just put on your battle belt, maybe kind of feel around, where am I positioning on my gear, and start practicing. You can practice doing dry reloads. You can practice, grabbing, unholstering your pistol, right, doing pistol reloads, tactical reloads, and really figure out, why am I running this piece of kit. I mean, sure, the number one rule in airsoft is looking cool. You gotta look cool. Absolutely, yeah. But again, there's a functionality behind it.
Like I said, blocking in that muscle memory just really helps you in those situations where you need it most.
Absolutely, yeah. So so thank you guys so much for tuning into our rant discussion.
Yeah, it was a little bit less formal, a little bit more just kind of talking about it.
And and let us know if you want any more further discussion on pieces of kit or maybe certain accessories on guns while we run stuff. Yeah, if you guys are interested in that kind of insight, please let us know in the comments below.
Yeah.
And we are uploading every Monday and Friday, so please be on the lookout for the new videos when they drop.
Right, and be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, as well as ringing the bell icon to be notified of whenever we drop those videos every Monday and Friday.
All right, and this is Boaz.
This is Kevin. Thank you
And
guys for watching.
See you next time.
See ya.
Happy feet. One more combo. That ain't Falco. Oh, oh, oh!